was a soccer beat. Pirates Sundowns 1-1. What Sundowns could be, we saw in the goal that they scored. What a clinical, what a well worked goal. Passes, movement, lots to talk about. The coach is buzzing to talk about that, Coach Farouk Khan. What Sundowns could be, but that's as basically as best as we got in this game. After that, we're looking for another Shusha and piano moment. We couldn't find it. What a goal by Dancing to get Orlando Pirates back into the game. Announcing yourself in a big game like this. Everybody's watching this game. This crowd is full. I think as a 10-year-old, when you yawn and dream, you dream of moments like that. And one young man dancing will be the talk of the town for the whole or the rest of the evening into next week. Coach Farouk is joined by Sheikh Ngwenya, Mamelodi Sundowns legend. Join us, Soccerbeat family. Hit the like button. Let us know you are in here. If you are new, welcome. Subscribe. We're going to dissect and talk about those moments. Coach Farouk, what a goal. We thought, wow, here we go. Sundowns is finally the finished product.
Well, absolutely. It was a great advert for the PSL, I think, from a tactical perspective. Yes, the game where I think they cancelled each other out from a tactical point of view. And you could see both of these teams did their homework, Jaga. You could see this has been a lot of thinking going into this particular game of how do we stop each other, rather than the case of how do we overcome each other. And with all due respect, up to the point when Sundowns conceded their corner, they were in full control. I mean, look at the percentage of possession they had, the shots on target up to that moment. But you have to compliment Orlando Pirates for never saying die, realizing it's an early goal and hoping to get that equalizer, which they did. And once again, I think maybe we'll dissect those two goals to talk about the brilliance. Firstly, from Sundowns, the tactical press was world class. If you have a player like Cupido pressing that high up the field, you can see it was orchestrated. It was a compact block, moving in cohesion, making sure we're going to smother Pirates. We're not going to allow them to come out, Bijaka. But maybe that's something we can discuss once you pose that $1 million question.
Coach Farouk, Mshege, at that stage, you're like, here, 1-0. We're going into the halftime break. It's going to be in control here. Half the job is getting done here. You can start celebrating and talking to Cardoso about making changes. But Dancing was like, no, Mshege. No. It's not going to be just Sundowns making the headlines here. The young man said, hurt a lot of Brazilians, including yourself.
Yeah, Mchaga, brilliant equalizer, contender for goal of the season already. For me, quality goal from the youngster, and up until then, like the coach has said, I thought Sundowns was doing well in terms of the tactical awareness, and stopping Pirates from their strength, pressing them high and, denying them that space, to play those passes and making those runs, because they are dangerous. Their danger is playing behind us with the pace, of Moremi and the tight press there of Mahopa. So before that, I thought Sundowns did well, but I think Pirates also came back second half and they were threatening to score. I'm a bit disappointed in terms of us only being tactically aware to defend. We're no longer that team that bring games to the opponent. We are more now worried about not losing more than winning. But it was always going to be a tactical game. Pirates is a good team. We needed to respect them. And I think fair result in the end.
Interesting that Sheikh says Sundowns is trying to be this defensive team. And their coach, in the corner, I know, even in grassroots football, they tell you somebody's got to stand on the edge of the box.
Before we go there, Jaga, let me just touch on what Sheikh has said about the fact that Sundowns were very defensive. And I think it was not out of choice. It was out of the fact that Pirates enforced them to play a much more defensive game. We know that Mudiba and Mudau are outlets for Sundowns. They make Sundowns very offensive by ensuring that they play high up the field, They constantly bomb down that field, and they are the ones that bring in those important crosses into the box, cutbacks, etc. But today, I think what Libizzo and Horto did was keep them on the back foot. So they were not allowed to play that game, which now left Shalulile very much isolated up front. I would have loved for the coach to take the risk of bringing in Raiders. That would have forced Pirates on the back foot, because now you have an outlet which is one, and I think Sundowns Pirates took care of him. Then you look at the midfield. Sundowns Pirates played with two number sixes, Nduli and Nyantajela. And those guys, they ensured that they didn't allow the likes of Sales, the likes of Santos, the space and the time to do what we know Sundowns does very well, is string those passes, play in the pockets, make runs, from deep positions. Matthews and Sales were held back in certain moments where they couldn't forward themselves and affect the game positively. So yeah, I think from a defensive point, you have to give a lot of credit to the Pirates team. They ensured that they didn't give Sundowns the space and time that all great teams need. You need that space and time. But in saying that, Sundowns stood firm in as far as their philosophy. They still kept the ball. They played a passive. What surprised me was the substitute when Sales was substituted by Adams. I didn't understand that, because we have known for the past games Adams hasn't been that player, whereas Sales has been very effective in linking up play. So that was my only concern from a tactical point, which I can highlight. Coming back to the goal quickly, Shakes will tell you, if there's a corner against you, you need to have at least one or two players on the D. You need to have those players to pick up the second ball, because we can say Obas should have cleared the ball. Okay, he didn't. Now, obviously, what is the next step? Win the second ball. They had 8 players plus Williams defending that with nobody on the D line. That is a schoolboy error when it comes to defending set pieces. And I think if the coach goes back and he looks at it, he will see that don't take nothing away from Denson. Fantastic. On the volley. Laces. Top corner. You can't take anything away, guys. But he could have, from a Sundowns point, put him under pressure. At least if you were 1 or 2 meters from him and pressed him, I don't think you would have had time to hit that ball as cleanly as he did. So I think Sundowns need to ask themselves questions about that particular corner. Not well defended.
Yeah, coach, I think you're 100% right. That's what was very disappointing for me. That substitute where Sales comes out, who's more offensive, and then Adams comes in, who's more now defensive and holding the ball. I thought really we needed at least Reyners to go in there and add the firepower and give them problems at the back. So that's what I'm talking about when I said we are more defensively structured. Yes, Pirates are doing well, and we need to be wary defensively, but I think it's more important to put them under pressure. The more we put them under pressure, the more we control the game. So I thought in the middle, for me, I thought Alande was exceptional once again, but we needed more, especially from the likes of your Obas. I think we needed more. In terms of the fluidity of how we normally pass the ball, I'm still a bit not happy, especially today playing at home. I thought we could have done better in terms of controlling the ball and passing the ball better. Too many mistakes from the likes of your Obas and Modiba.
Shakes, games like this, games like this do need certain individual moments. Where are these individual moments? Ribeiro had that moment. Pirates did the same thing to Sundowns that time. But what did Ribeiro do? He turned the marker and turned another one and carried the ball all the way and scored a goal. Brilliant, because it requires that type of performance, these type of matches. Why are we searching for it in games? Why are we searching for it in Shege? And then you can take over, Coach.
Njaka, you must understand games like these. The outcome of the games like these are decided by individual brilliance. Now, there was one player we're not mentioning that was absent from this particular fixture, Mukwena. You can see his absence clearly. Take nothing away from Obas. He's a good player when it comes to defending. But Sundowns is not a team that are defending. Sundowns is a team that look to attack. So yes, it's always good to have a Mukwena who combines both defensive and offensive qualities. I think with Ovas, you have one more than the other. Whereas with Mukwena, he balances it off. They were missing those passes. And those were the passes that is always the deciding factor. Either he finds Shalulile in the pocket, or he finds Mudiba on the overlap, or he finds more. And this is what was missing clearly, So I think from that perspective, as Shakes was saying, we didn't see the fluidity. And that was something which we expect from this, I would say, this team that has proven beyond a doubt over the seasons that they are the team to beat.
Do you sit in the dressing room, Shakes, and say, you know who your star player is in the team, right? And then you say, my man, you didn't show up today. Who's that guy that the guys are looking to in the team currently at Sundowns, Shege? Who's that guy where we say, Anjaya, you didn't show up today? Who's that guy we're pointing to?
Yeah, no, I think it was a highly tactical game, so it's tough to single out, the performances by the guys, but just the fluidity in terms of the passing that we normally used to. I thought some players, I thought some players lacked that fluidity today, in the key areas in the midfield. And definitely we missed Mukwena, because Mukwena's got that X factor, especially with set pieces, corners for us. He always rises. He's not the tallest of people, but he always rises. He comes up with something. And he's also got what Johnson did. He's got it in the back of his locker. So in games like this, you need that individual brilliance that Mukwena brings to the team, which we didn't have today. Unfortunately, with Saleh going out, early in the second half, it was tough to see where we're going to get our goal, because Mukwena also pins in those passes for Matthews, and we couldn't really find Matthews in those dangerous areas that he normally gets to as well.
The big concern of whether are we talking here, Pirates have caught up, coach. Big concern if by the subs by Sundowns, Matthews is an attacker. All the attacking weapons being taken off. That's a big concern. That means the team has to find a new creative spark with each substitute.
Yeah, but they didn't have that. I think that they were spoiled with Ribeiro in the past. Ribeiro was that guy who put up his hand and says, okay, look here, give me the ball. Today you got to ask the question, Shalulile isolated on his own, didn't give you that much. I think once Saleh went out, he was even more isolated, because now you saw Adams coming deeper to fetch the ball. Allende wasn't getting as far forward as he would have liked to see him get forward. So I think, again, once you have a situation when Mukwena is out, Allende is now compromised, Saleh is compromised, because the confidence is now, hey, we can't just go, because we need somebody who's going to give us the confidence to say, look, even if I'm playing alone as a 6 here, I can take care of it, because you must understand, it's not just about the technical side. It's about your ability to read the game. It's about your ability to make intelligent decisions. It's about your ability to ensure that even if you are outnumbered, you still are able to affect the game positively. And Mukwena is that player. Currently, in my opinion, the best number 6 in our country. That is why he's so important to the national team. And when he is missing, obviously now you can see how even the two defenders, because they play in a figure 5. The figure 5 means you've got the likes of Cupido, and you've got the likes of Kekana, and then in the center of that dice, you've got Mukwena, and then you have the two, I would call them number 8s. You have the like of Santos and Allende. Now, this guy in the middle is not effective. Those 4 players become compromised. And clearly, that was the missing link in today's game.
Judge Farouk says so. Thank you, Coach.
Cardoso was very worried about us not being able to dominate that midfield, because Pirates came with a game plan to make sure that they shut out whatever we do in the midfield. They press us very quickly. You could see tactically that they were very disciplined in making sure that we don't play from the center. And with the substitute of Saleh coming off and Adams coming in, I think the coach was worried about that, and he wanted more control in terms of keeping the ball in the midfield. But still compromised us going forward. I think it gave us more comfort in the defense. But going forward, we didn't look like we were going to score.
Thank you, gentlemen. This was a fine football conversation brought to you by Soccerbeat. My name is Umchaga. That was Coach Farouk Khan. And that's Shakes Ngwenya, Mamelodi Sundowns legend. This is us for you, our fans. Like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Tell a friend to tell a friend, tell a friend. Woza, woza.